Oh, dude, stay hooked, please, dude. Oh my gosh.
First cast.
First freaking, or that was like a second cast. Oh my gosh, he's strong. It's a trout. Please don't get unhooked. Whoa, dude.
Ooh, the big boy.
Golly, it's strong.
Look at keeper. Maybe.
If we can tire out.
That's too damn big.
Dude, that was crazy. Right there. Oh, you okay? I think gold blades might be the way to go.
Yeah. Wow.
I have some more gold spinners. Cloudy day, usually gold is better.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's still fighting. Gotta be easy with them on this little rod though. Come on, dude.
You can break the rod.
Well, they can break the line. It's only a 4-pound line, so. Beautiful fish.
Wow.
Let's go. Dude. Beautiful trout. What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to Cross Country Bank Angler. I'm going to start off this video by putting together a scenario, a conundrum that may sound familiar to some of you out there if you're watching this channel, if you're a subscriber, or if this is your first time here. Either way. But say, you know, you're a bank fisherman, you know, and, you know, 2025, like your fishing started off really good. You know, you got out, you know, you've learned a few things, you know, you got a few lakes and ponds, you know, local spots that you can go to and feel pretty confident that you're going to be able to catch some fish. And, you know, in the spring you did great, you know, you were able to catch a lot of bass and maybe some other fish too on a variety of different lures. But as time has gone on, things have changed. Things have gotten tougher. You know, it's the first week of August right now in my area. So, you know, mid-summer, but, you know, in a few weeks it's really going to be more like late summer. And, you know, the bite has slowed down and you've tried to adapt, right? You've, you know, you've gone out at, you know, early mornings, late evenings. You know, switched up your presentations a little bit. You know, maybe you had to slow down the presentations that you're using. You know, you're going finesse. And, you know, that works for, you know, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. But, you know, as time goes on, you're just getting diminishing returns. You know, the fishing is slowing down. You're not catching as many, or you're not catching the quality of fish that you're looking for. You're starting to think about just, you know, maybe it's time to pack it up this year. You know, the fish are just not biting. It's hot, right, when you almost as you decide to go out a little bit longer, or something like that. Maybe in the middle of the day, it's just too hot and you're uncomfortable. The fish aren't biting. You get frustrated easily, and ultimately you're kind of just like, you know what? It's a time of year. Fishing is in a slump right now, and that's just the reality of it. I'm just going to take a break. Maybe wait for it to cool off a little bit before I really try any other fishing. But if you could catch fish, you still would. And you know, maybe you're not so picky, right? You're willing to go out, you know, catch some smaller fish. You just want to be able to have consistent action when you're out fishing again. Well, I have a solution for you. Instead of going out to those ponds or lakes, you know, suffering in the heat, you know, getting freaking, you know, heat stroke out there, 110 degree heat index, you know, burning up, not catching fish, getting angry and, you know, a little, you know, discombobulated out there. The alternative is to go out, pick up an ultralight spinning rod, you know, some 4-pound test, 5'6" rod. Maybe if you like a bait caster, go ahead and pick you up a BFS setup, right? Bait finesse system, a light or ultralight power rod. Put on a pair of old sneakers, maybe you know, some old athletic pants or some gym shorts, and start wading your local creeks and small rivers. Now this type of fishing is going to be better in the summer because the water in those places is going to be cooler. It's going to be, moving water like that. It's going to be more oxygenated. The fish are going to be more active, more comfortable in those conditions. So if you're wanting to kind of change up your success in the summertime and enjoy yourself so much more, find a way to cool off in the summer while doing your fishing. This is the way, guys, especially if you don't have, no boat, no other option like that. And I think you'll find that your fishing success and enjoyment will increase if you go this route, even if you aren't necessarily catching super big, PB bass or anything like that. It's more of a multi-species type of fishing, but in the summer, it's a great way to cool off and relax and just have a good time on the water. It's literally a little bit more immersive than just bank fishing. So in that mindset, with that scenario presented to you, I'm going to run through my top 5 baits for summertime creek and river fishing, multi-species fishing, to help you guys, if you're getting into this style of fishing, to get started and have some good success out there on the water and enjoy your summer of fishing, guys. A lot of people, it's getting hotter, right? Climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it. People are feeling it. You have your heat waves roll through and people complain and are miserable. And, oh, I can't catch fish. Oh, it's too hot. I'm just going to stay indoors and, play video games or whatever. But you're going to just enjoy your summer a lot more if you get into this, guys. So, without further ado, let's start talking about baits. Alright, people, so the first category of lure that we're going to talk about that you should definitely have in your arsenal for, light tackle wade fishing in creeks and small rivers in the summer is going to be some kind of topwater, guys. And, with these categories, I'm going to be pretty broad because there's really a pretty large range of lures that can potentially work in the topwater category. So, one that probably comes to mind first is going to be some kind of buzzbait. So this is kind of a weird one. You're not going to be able to find one exactly like this in the store. This is one that I made. It's an inline buzzbait, 1/8 of an ounce weight on this. Treble hook on the front, small metal blade. But there are definitely some some store-bought buzzbaits out there that will fit the bill, guys. I think there's like a Booyah, Pond Buzz. One that I've used before is a Strike King Mini Pro Buzz. These are 1/8 ounce baits, guys. But this is a good option, in my opinion, if you have a creek or a stream with a little bit more cover. So think, some submerged wood or trees or logs that you can retrieve that buzzbait over. This is a fast presentation. You can cover a lot of water with this. Work your way down the creek, just casting to all the likely areas. It's also a good bait if you have a lot of cover along the edges of the creek. So think maybe a steeper bank with like some grass or vegetation growing along the edge, or overhanging trees that you can kind of make a low angle cast under and burn this thing out. You'll be surprised. This thing, I think some people just don't really believe in the buzzbait because of how, it's a fast presentation, right? It's really fast. The fish have to commit or they don't, right? And some people are just kind of like, this is too fast. The fish won't chase this. But in the right scenario, you'll be surprised just how well this lure can do, and it'll bring out some big fish, guys, big bass, and other predators. So a buzzbait is going to be my first one for the topwater category. Another one that I think is worth mentioning, guys, is going to be some kind of popper. Now this is a Rebel teeny popper. I think it's around 1/8 of an ounce. This is like a baby bass pattern. This is a good one if you have clearer water and you've got isolated cover that you can kind of work the lure around more slowly. You can also fish these pretty fast as well. Walk them around a little bit, pop in a little more aggressively. You're just gonna have to figure out what the fish want. But if you've got laydowns that are really prominent, in certain areas, in the middle of the creek, or maybe you've got some rocks and there's a slack pool behind it where you can kind of twitch this thing through. You'll be surprised at what will go for it, guys. And then another one here, honorable mention, is going to be the Heddon torpedo. This is the teeny torpedo, another very small bait here. but I like to work this little half turn to the reel handle, kind of make it jump a little bit as you're working it. You know, not a straight retrieve, just kind of making it kind of jerk a little bit. It just looks like a little bug or something on top of the water. But I've caught a lot of panfish with that. So kind of an in-between of the buzzbait and the popper in a way. But another one that I definitely recommend, guys. And there's going to be some overlap in these categories just a little bit. You know, some of the lures that we're going to talk about later on can also kind of work as topwaters. All right, so the next lure I want to talk about, guys, is one that I actually just made a video on fairly recently. This is the only one where I'm going to get fairly specific with the lure that I'm talking about. And there are others out there that could kind of substitute that are in the same category. But I think you're missing some fish if you don't have one of these Rapala original floaters in your creek fishing box, guys. This thing just gets a lot of bites. And it's kind of, this is one of those lures that kind of crosses categories. You know, it can be, it's a jerk bait, right? A floating jerk bait. That's really what this is kind of categorized as. And I've also got this is another floating jerk bait. This is like I think a cream or an arky. But this kind of does the same thing, right? Floats and then it'll dive a little bit and swim when you're reeling it. But these work, like I said, you can just wind these in. Very natural swimming action on these. You know, very narrow little side-to-side wobble. You can use it like a jerk bait. You know, twitch it, jerk it around, let it come up to the top, jerk, 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 let it float back up. But it also works as a topwater. You can just kind of twitch these, let it float up, or kind of just slowly wake these across the surface. So this is one that you can crank it, you can jerk, you can twitch it, or you can let it wake on the surface, and it'll get some bites, guys. All right, guys. So the next little category I want to make sure to mention here, and this is might be my favorite, or it's close to my favorite, is some kind of spinning type lure. And I think the kind of the go-to here for creeks, for me, is probably an inline spinner, guys. So think your rooster tails. I think I've got some in here. Yep, here we go. These are 1/6 ounce, so a bit larger ones here. But just a bait fish pattern, you know, a white or a gray or a silver, and then maybe something like this for dirtier water. That's a great place to start in terms of store-bought lures. I also make my own spinners. Here's an example. But this is just a good one for just catching whatever type of fish, right? Like if you're just trying to find fish and you don't care what they are, you might as well just throw a spinner, guys. You can cover various depths of the water. They cast really well, so you can make long casts with them when you need to. And they just work, you know. You just want to reel them as slow as you can, like you're still feeling that vibration of the blade. And you'll catch fish, and you can change up the retrieve a little bit, you know, twitch it a little bit, things like that. But a lot of the times it's a slow, steady retrieve, and letting that vibration and that flash do the work for you, guys. Yeah, that's just always going to attract fish, especially, you know, sometimes if you have like a little bit of stain to the water, those can be really good situations for an inline spinner, especially if you're, you know, around a lot of current, right? You're fishing current in these creeks and small rivers, so that moving water helps the spinner out a lot. And if you're finding that you're getting your spinner's snagged a lot, guys, you know, this is a sinking lure with a treble hook, right? So sometimes it will get snagged. An alternative is some kind of beetle spin or a jig spinner style of lure, guys. So here's one as an example here. You know, you've got this wire frame with a blade, and then you can just clip on whatever kind of bait you really want to put underneath it. You know, different jig head sizes and weights to adjust your presentation as needed, guys. So, and that's just going to be a little more snag resistant compared to an inline spinner. So keep that in mind as another option for you out there. All right, so the next option I want to touch on here, guys, is going to be another hard bait. And I'm specifically thinking of some kind of crankbait, guys. I've been fishing crankbaits for a long time, but I keep, you know, every year I feel like I keep finding new models that work fairly well, and it just keeps me coming back to them as one of my go-to options for fishing in these creeks. So, and there, there's a huge variety of crankbaits, guys. So if you have like a smaller crankbait that you like to use, that one will probably, go ahead and give that a shot, because a lot of different ones can be effective in a creek environment for sure. And you can adjust the sizes here accordingly to what you're targeting. So like for example, here's one that I really love for creek fishing, and this is a Rebel crawfish, guys. I think it's just called the wee craw, something like that. But this is an amazing lure for smallmouth bass specifically, but a lot of other fish will hit this too. Mimicking a fleeing crawfish. This dives about 1.5 or 2 feet down. Great for working around shallow cover, or a rocky bottom, a sandy bottom, maybe around some wood, some lighter wood, thick wood. This maybe isn't the best one for that. You can see it has a rounded bill here, so it deflects some, but a square little crankbait will be better for wood, like this one here. This is a Strike King Bitsy Minnow. Here's another, I think this is a Bass Pro Shops. This is a very small, like a 1/12 ounce. So you can go from these tiny ones to, some of these bigger ones, just depending on your setup and what you're targeting in these creeks. But yeah, especially the other one that's, if you've got some moving water, maybe a little more stain to the water, the crankbait can get it done, guys. It definitely can. So another one that you can probably adapt from some of your other fishing, if you haven't tried this before, but you still have some confidence in a crankbait. You'll be surprised what they can do. Here's another one, Bomber Fat A, very effective bait. All right, so for my final category here, and I'm going to be extremely broad here, maybe a little too broad, but I'm going to give you some specific examples to kind of help clarify a little bit. But just some kind of soft plastic on a jig head, which, like I said, I know that sounds too vague to be helpful, but this can range from like a little 1-inch, 1.5-inch bait, like this guy right here. This is a Southern Pro Crappie Crawl. I don't have this on the jig head right now, but I tend to use something from like a 1/32 to a 1/64 ounce on this, and you really want a very light setup here. 4-pound line at the most. You can throw a slightly heavier jig head on this, like a 1/16 ounce, if you have a heavier current. But when you really need to go finesse, the bite is tough. You don't care as much about the size of the fish. This guy is deadly. This is a deadly bait. I think I made a video about it before, but it is a highly effective lure. And just because you're going smaller here, it doesn't mean that you're eliminating your opportunities at catching a bigger fish. Because I have caught bass up to 3 pounds on this little thing. So don't underestimate the capabilities of a tiny little plastic like this. But yeah, there are so many different varieties of soft plastic that you can go with here. I mean, I've got little swim baits, little paddle tail grubs. I've had a couple of days here with this thing where it's kind of saved the day, like a little 1.5-inch paddle tail. This is a 1/32 ounce jig head. I just did a video with this little 2-inch guy, another swim bait as well. But you can go with a straight tail. Experiment with different styles of plastic here. This is like a little baby shad type design here. Very, very effective. Of course, the plastic curly tail is also absolutely deadly, guys. I did a video on curly tails back in the spring. This white one, this is a classic river presentation here, just all white. This is like a 2-inch bait here. You can size it up a little bit too. Like I said, just depends on what you're targeting, right? You can get, this is like a little, closer to a 3-inch swim bait right here. We've got this. You can also go more of this, like a slower, finesse direction with this too. Here's like a little Ned rig, for instance. This is just half of a young dinger cut up and rigged on here. This is a 1/16 of an ounce with a little weed guard there. Great for smallmouth. And I mean, when it comes to Ned rigs, that's a whole nother, that's like a, you know, a whole nother rabbit hole you can get into here. Let me see if I can find some other Ned rig examples. Yes, here we go. This is one I didn't want to leave out, guys. A little soft plastic Helgramite. This is like a 2.5 or 3 inch bait. This mimics a very specific type of larvae in the water. But this is a great Ned rig bait. Just put this on a like that 1/16 ounce to a 1/8 ounce. Deadly for smallmouth bass. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to do a quick run through. I know this is kind of broad strokes, right? I wasn't talking about a lot of specific baits. I just gave a lot of examples in these different categories. But I think these will give you a pretty solid arsenal to get started if you're looking into getting into this kind of light tackle, you know, finessier style of fishing. You're looking to cool off. You just want to catch some fish. You're tired of, you know, watching bass. Ignore your baits, you know, out at the local pond. And just want to get back to catching fish and cooling off and just having a good time. Relaxing, making the most of your time on the water, and catching some fish. So with that being said, I hope this video was informative for you. If you haven't gotten into creek fishing before, the summer is the best time to do it, in my opinion. And with that being said, I hope to see you next time. Peace.
Getting little hits, guys, but nothing's getting hooked up. They're not really, you know, hammering it. There's a fish.